save your bubbly. You're going to need it in a few minutes, but not just yet. So we're here to celebrate the creation and release and public marketing of Making the Unknown Known, Women in Early Texas Art, 1860s to 1960s, edited by our friends Victoria and Light Cummins. We have with us today 11 of the 13 authors. On stage, seated with me, when I call out your name, if you'll just raise your hand, I don't think you really need to stand. On stage, we have authors Sarah Beth Wilson, Vicki Cummins, Light Cummins, Michael Grauer. On the front row down here, we have Sam Ratcliffe, Randy Tibbetts, Jack Davis, Ken Hafferty, Amy Fulkerson, Rick McCaslin, and Eleanor Barton. Unable to join us today are Francine Carraro and Scott Barker. Now I want you to, it's really time now, grab your Prosecco and join me in 3, not 2, not 1, but 3 hip hip hoorays. Then you may drink your Prosecco. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Now you may drink your Prosecco. And then get ready for, I will say a few words about Sarah Beth, who was there from the very beginning, and but for her constancy of spirit and calmness, nothing would ever have come of this. But here we are today with a book that we can sell and be very proud of, in large part because of Sarah Beth.
Hello, I believe that was a bit of an overstatement on the introduction. There was certainly a team project on the book, and I was jokingly saying, I think one of the reasons I was asked to come along was because I could save a PDF. So, but it takes one, you have to be able to do that. So, we all got there, we all made it, and it's been a wonderful journey and process working with everyone. And certainly I never thought I would be behind the scenes, working on a book project like this. So it's been wonderful to work with all of you and with all of the authors and everyone up here on the stage with me, the CASETA board. And so it's really exciting to get to celebrate here today. So before we proceed with our book signing, we do have a little bit of a program with the book. And just so you know, the images rotating are just a selection from the book that you'll see when you purchase your copy, and you all go home Sunday afternoon and read it. So first off, I'd like to turn over the mic to Mark Keever, who honestly, before I came along, Mark was really one of the key players on the book and spearheading everything and getting us all together in the project, and really just a fundamental player throughout every single stage, even to this day, making sure everything came together at the symposium. So Mark, please join us.
Well, thank you. It was an honor to participate with such an incredible group of talented art people. And that doesn't, you're probably going, yeah, but that doesn't really include you. How did you get in the middle of that? And so really my duties were kind of threefold. Liaison to the board, co-image editor, and fundraising. And so that's kind of the 3 things I did. I want to just speak to working with Sarah Beth and Michael Grauer. And I talked to Sarah Beth early on. I'm like, how's this going to work? Is it everybody gets 1 vote? And like we can gang up on Michael ever so often and outvote him? No, it wound up being Michael 55%, Sarah Beth 40%, Mark 5%. And so you can see how that worked. Actually, we had lots of discussion. There were very few paintings, though, that we disagreed on. And when we disagreed on it, Michael had 55%, so we knew what to do. Recently, my friend Sue Canterbury called me when she saw the PR piece that went out. And she said, "Mark, wow, it's getting ready to come out, and you're listed as a contributor." Yeah. What chapter did you write? No, she wasn't trying to dig me. She was like, what chapter did you write? Well, I didn't write a chapter. Oh, did you write the foreword? No. Did you write the introduction? No. I just wrote a check. That's all I wrote. She's like, "Okay, well, I've got another call, Mark. Thank you for helping." Thank y'all for being here this weekend. It should be a great weekend.
Mark, we're really glad that you know how to write checks. So thank you for that. Next up, I'd love to introduce Light and Vicky, who were our powerhouse editors along the way. They corralled all of the authors. So there's 13 authors. And we all know that everyone, emails, texts, calls differently. Some people like to, just Facebook chat. So you kind of have to do a little bit of everything, and they did a great job keeping us all on track, made sure we met our deadlines, and then they also liaised with the press and did everything after that. I mean, it was a very smooth process. Took it on from once we submitted our chapters, it was just done, and they handled everything for us. So Light and Vicky, please join us.
Vicki has asked me to speak on her behalf in the interest of time. We are absolutely overwhelmed by the fabulous book design. We are also of the opinion that the high quality of the images and their public presentation are just breathtaking. The writing quality of each chapter represents, in our opinion, the highest standards of academic scholarly prose, and we are proud to have been associated with all of the contributors that wrote those chapters. For us, the highest and most significant detail of which we are proud are the citations, the footnotes. The footnotes represent and manifest the fact that every one of the authors was a highly informed professional expert, and they curry-combed primary and secondary sources to document what they wrote. I believe that the citations will guarantee this book will be of utility and usage for many years to come. In addition, the citations will point the way for those who come after us to write additionally on the history of female artists in early Texas art. So thank you.
Thank you, Light and Vicky. Everyone needs an editor that loves citations. So y'all took that job on, did great. Next up, we have someone that I really don't think needs an introduction to this crowd, but I will just say that he'll probably keep it a little short, and we'll see if he cries this time. There's really no way he can mention Frank Ray. So we'll see where this goes, but we've presented a challenge now. Michael Grauer.
Well, I'm a given commodity, apparently, and I know at CASETA conferences, there are those who take bets on when I'm going to cry. So put your money back in your pocket, because it ain't going to happen this time. I want to thank also, again, Light and Vicky for really corralling us all on the essays, because without them to shape this herd before it went up the trail, it wouldn't be the fine example of scholarship that it really is. And also, the idea that this is an art book, it was critical in selecting each image. One of the things we discussed over and over again was how far the achievements of this book could be set back by the wrong illustration, by the wrong reproduction. And that was a challenge, because finding the exactly the right image to go with each artist or with each point to be made was a difficult one. And so I'm blessed and cursed with a near photographic memory, and most of the time I can remember where your paintings hang in your house. And so I think that's may have been some value to the group and maybe I'd seen a few things that others hadn't seen in my near 40 years in doing this kind of work. And I'm not saying this is about me, it's just there are options that may not have been clear. And I'll conclude by saying this. About 1996, a book came out called Independent Spirits, Women Painters of the American West. And the chapter that was written on Texas artists had to be doctored heavily by others, and Texas women artists did not get their just due. First of all, it was only painters, so sculptors, printmakers, et cetera, did not get any play in that book. Beautiful book and an award-winning book to be sure, but some of the images in there would not have been the ones that I would have chosen. So I'm honored that I got to be part of the image team and also contribute an essay on Miss McClung that I actually got to meet, and I'm proud to say I did meet her. And also on West Texas women who sometimes get forgotten about if you're west of I-35. It really is, it's not just the cattle country, because that's what Mr. Ray called it, by the way. But in any case, it was my honor and privilege to be part of this incredible project. Much obliged.
I knew he'd sneak in there somehow. We also want to, of course, thank Texas A&M University Press and Tom Lemons, who answered so many questions and emails. I got a little nervous sometimes. Like, surely there's a limit. But thank you, Tom, and we'd love to invite you up here to say a few words.
Howdy. I thought there might be some Aggies in the crowd. Being the publishing partner for this book was a privilege. And I got so many people to thank, because publishing a book of any kind, and especially publishing a book of the high production quality and design needs that this book had, is a work of many hands. Of course, I want to mention my team back at Texas A&M University Press, the editors, the designers. They just did a fantastic job. We're so proud of the book, and it's been really lovely to hear you all express your pleasure in seeing the book as well. I want to thank a few other people. I want to thank Bill and Linda Reeves, who I think planted the seed for this whole thing a number of years ago with the notion of, that, hey, CASETA ought to sponsor a book. Press ought to do a really significant book on the arts, and CASETA should sponsor it. And of course, I'm always happy to engage in partnerships that with organizations like CASETA to do important work. I also want to thank Howard. I want to thank Sarah Beth, Michael, the whole team that worked on this. The folks at CASETA were wonderful to work with. They always are. Grateful for people who can write checks, and because we're, as my boss is fond of saying, we're a nonprofit press, and we can prove it. But the last thing I want to say is that books like this are part of the DNA of Texas A&M University Press. I mean, Frank Wardlaw was a champion of Texas art and Texas artists from way, way back. And so the opportunity to tell a story about Texas art and to tell a story about Texas women artists, which is one of those stories that hasn't been told, well, that's what we love to do at Texas A&M University Press. And so we are so grateful. We hope you enjoy the book. I really hope I brought enough, but I do not want to take them home. So don't forget to swing by the table. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
And of course, we could not have done it without Howard Taylor, our fearless director of CASETA, and kind of all things Texas, I feel like. Howard, of course, was there to settle all the boxing matches and debates that happened. If we had any questions, everyone's friends. So it was lovely. Howard came in and helped throughout the process, was a guiding light, making sure we were staying course and supported throughout the way. Howard.
So Grower knows where your paintings are hanging. Be sure you check and see that they're still hanging there. Okay. I want to tell you from a director's perspective, I'll take a check any day over an intro, okay? So, a couple secrets. This is a wonderful achievement, amazing enterprise, and I never imagined it could be as beautiful and as readable. And I know someone up here has actually read it already, and I'm taking a stab at it. I've looked at the manuscripts and my new copy, and you all have at least 2 or 3 copies, I hope, with you. Because remember, we're going to do a signing here in a moment. But what I wanted to tell you is I've got a special little surprise for you. There is a woman who is really blown away by how wonderful this book is, and she wanted to make a comment. She loves Texas passionately, as we all do. And also, she's been in a position to do something about that over the years. And she loves the visual arts, and she cares about everything about women. And then I'll give you one last little clue. Her husband retired, and he's an aspiring artist. How about that? And so if we may have our little special presentation. Ta-dum, drum roll.
Congratulations to CASETA with the publication of Making the Unknown Known, Women in Early Texas Art, 1860s through 1960s. As First Lady of Texas, I supported the establishment of a program to add more early Texas art to the Capitol, with the emphasis on pieces by female artists. CASETA's groundbreaking research reveals the remarkable achievements of many talented Texas women who played a significant role in creating the state's visual arts legacy. And I believe that Making the Unknown Known will empower the next generation, reassuring our daughters and granddaughters that they can be successful artists too.
How about that? One last little thing I wanted to say, I think we can't say it enough, but this whole wonderful weekend was orchestrated by the chair of our local committee, and I'm probably going to irritate her and make her mad, but I just want to say, Bonnie Campbell at the back of the room. And I'll say this, she's on her way up here, but yes.
I told you not to say it until 1 o'clock on Sunday.
Oh. Bonnie, I have trouble reading your instructions. I do know that I have it right here in my pocket, and it says, after this little bit, she says, Howard, after thunderous applause, sit the hell down. Okay, thank you.
Well, last but certainly not least, it's my pleasure to introduce another significant woman in the arts here in Houston, Catherine Anspon. Catherine, for more than 25 years, has covered the Texas art scene for Paper City magazine as executive editor. She's also served as Houston correspondent for Art News and written for Art and Antiques, Spot, Glass Tire, Art Desk, and Cultured. With a master's in art history from University of Missouri and a BA in history and art history from Rice, Missouri. She is the author of Texas Artists Today, which has a second volume forthcoming focused upon Texas contemporary artists. And before Catherine comes up, I also just have to say, of course, we're here to celebrate women artists, but Catherine, as a young professional growing up in Houston, has always been such a supporter of just women in the arts in general, which I think is really important, and I hope she knows how much that is. I'm looking at a few of my colleagues throughout the room, and I know we've all loved seeing Catherine at gallery openings, and anytime she would write about the openings or anything that was going on in town, it just meant everything to us. So she's been just a huge light in the Houston and Texas community for, I think, supporting women in general. So thank you so much, Catherine.
Oh, gosh, Sarah. Well, I'm honored, all the power women and all the power gentlemen here, and just being at CASETA, which I've always heard about CASETA, and we've always tried to keep up with the stories and all the fabulous books, but we're here today for this fabulous book. So I know everyone, I doubt that Tom will have any books to take, take back to Texas A&M. I'm sure not. So anyway, we officially begin. Hello and good afternoon. I'm thrilled really to be here with all CASETA members and guests and welcome you to Houston. And we're celebrating this remarkable publication, Making the Unknown Known, Women in Texas, in Early Texas Art, 1860s to 1960s. And I want to thank Sarah Foltz, who reached out as I was driving to Dallas. Let's have a phone call. And then the remarkable, of course, Bonnie Campbell, my friend from Bayou Bend, and Sarah Beth, our lady at the Menil. So we're very, I was honored to be asked. And so we begin. It's really a rare and wonderful thing when a game-changing book comes out, and it promises to rewrite art history. This isn't just a book about artists that are known. This is a really deep dive, and it's a really significant book. And it's also going to redress gender biases. These women have been found and rediscovered. And equally notable, you can't have an art book unless it's beautifully published. Thank you, Tom. And without art images. So that's really important. And this is a lavishly illustrated volume. It's remarkable to go through the images, and many have never been published before or never seen together, and now they're all seen together in this remarkable dialogue that spans a century. And I'm really looking forward to, it's so great. We have the authors here, 11 of 13, so this is kind of a historic chance to get your book signed here. And then I've started to dig into the book, which is, I'm looking forward to reading it in more detail, but we have 21 tantalizing chapters. Some are in-depth on women, and then they're broad topics too. And these are some of an overview of some of the broader chapters in Making the Unknown Known. Texas women artists of the 19th century, female artists in San Antonio and Austin, women artists in Dallas, the Regionalist Impulse, the Rebels of Tucker Street, women artists in the Fort Worth Circle, Out From Under George's Shadow, women artists of West Texas, female artists, modernism and abstract art in Texas, pioneers in modernism at Texas Women's University, and women participating in the federally funded art programs. So just to come up with these broad topics, but then they're also immersive and in detail is remarkable. I must say, one chapter holds special meaning for this writer, A Woman's Concern, Art in Houston Before World War II. We have Randy Tivitz on the front row. As Randy points out, the Queen of Texas Cities, Houston, is a place for museums, galleries, and artists. And we're now beginning to realize and honor the incredible contributions talented and formidable women have made to our Houston scene. As Randy writes, quoting the first director of the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, Dr. James Chilman Jr., art in Houston was a woman's concern. And quoting Randy again, the story of Houston art during the first decades of the 20th century is the story of women and their contributions as artists, art teachers, arts writers, and builders of arts organizations. So I know you're going to read Randy's essays and others in the book because we're going to glean knowledge and understanding of the rich texture of Texas artists and the key role that women played. And Randy concludes by saying these pioneering women in Houston laid the foundation of what has become in the decades that followed the most vibrant art community in Texas and one of the most vibrant anywhere in the country. Now, I know this is a big claim, but we can offer evidence. And there's some women, I'd also like to suggest some women who would be perfect additions because this is one volume, but we notice it stops at 1960s. So we're sure there's going to be a second volume planned. And so I'd like to propose some women that can continue the volume. So I
feel like I should be taking notes.
Take notes. So just a couple of names I'm thinking about. Miss Ima Hogg, Dominic Demenil, the lesser known but a major person, Jermaine McCagey, and then we have two artists right here in the front row. We have Leila McConnell, who's here with us today, whose work has recently been acquired by the Houston Airport System. Leila. And we have her dear friend, an important painter, Pat Colville, who I have finally had the chance to meet. And then we have important galleries showing today, but these are my Houston friends that are showing, and they represent probably about 200 years of Houston art history. And we're very happy to have the Houston Galleries showing at CASETA Fair. Yvonne Garcia of Hooks Epstein Galleries, and I'm announcing these in the order which they were founded. Betty Moody of Moody Gallery, Carrie Inman of Inman Gallery, and Sarah Foltz of Foltz Fine Art. Yeah, and Sarah's continued what Bill began, and is just adding so much, all these galleries add so much excitement and energy to our scene, and it also combines with the sense of Houston's an art capital, but we know it has a rich history, so it just makes everyone is able to understand that now. And I also would like to, as being a writer, single out those who write and promote Texas art and artists, and those whose footsteps that I follow in, particularly the Pulitzer Prize nominated Patricia Johnson of the Houston Chronicle, such an influential voice. Her successors, Molly Glenser and today Amber Elliott, Donna Tennant and Nancy Wozni of Arts and Culture Texas, and of course Rainey Knutson, founder of Glass Tire. And Glass Tire was named the most important arts website in the country, and Glass Tire all started in Texas, specifically in Houston, and of course is one of your media sponsors today. So great. And Brandon's continuing Rainey's work on very, very beautifully. And I'm also very grateful to have a writing home for over 20 years at Paper City Magazine, which was founded by Holly Moore, our editor-in-chief, who's a truly inspiring woman. And Holly always says yes to a variety of art stories, and that's why we get to do what we do. There are stories on art, particularly artists, museums, and collectors. So I'm really grateful to have a home at the magazine for a couple decades. And we can also be very proud of having many women in the museum world and nonprofit world, gallery world in Houston. And when we see, of course, Sarah from the Menil here, and Bonnie, who's been at Bayou Bend. We've talked about the gallerists. And then our speakers are Allison DeLima Green of the Museum of Fine Arts, who's such an important voice in modern contemporary art. Claire Elliott of the Menil, I'm always thinking of her brilliant work with Forrest Best, and Dr. Alvia Wardlaw of Texas Southern University, the University Museum, and Alvia is doing such important work there, but she also worked at the MFAH, and she, Peter Marzio began that G's Bend Quilt Show, which all started in Houston, and also their work on Thornton Dial. So these are all such major figures in the art world that are women, so I think we have to really celebrate that. And in closing, I want to congratulate everyone here, everyone that's been part of the book, and all the book supporters, because you all came to Houston or in this room this evening. And then my call is, I know that there's going to be a volume 2, and we have big chapters to do because there's a lot that's happened from 1960 on. So thank you so much, and do get your volumes today. Okay.
Thank you, Catherine. Well, the CASETA definition of early Texas art is anything painted or anything created by a Texan working anywhere, or anything created by anyone working in Texas, in either case more than 40 years ago. So 62,000. I guess we'll be working on that in another 4 or 5 years. Maybe I'll make Randy Tibbetts the chairman of the committee. All right. Now we have a special opportunity here. We've got these books. We've got our authors here, 11 of 13. We're going to give you a chance to get your books inscribed by the very people who wrote the text. I'm going to ask you folks, the authors, to move back to the table. So let's let them do that, and then the people in the audience with books will be able to be able to approach the authors whose signature they want and have their book inscribed. We've set aside some time for this, so don't be in a rush, but I also ask you not to engage in extensive conversation. Are we ready? All right, then let the book signing begin, please.